You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, dropping back in for a Hoops primer. Red Raiders hitting the road this weekend. It's Lawrence, Kansas, the scene for Texas Tech and Kansas, and want to get ready for this big one for Tech, Chris. After 4 days in between, it will be by the time you tip it off. Going back to your previous game on Monday night against the Houston Cougars was a tough loss you took, and you do it in a shorthanded fashion. So the nature of the roster and who is available or who is not available is a big layer to this conversation that we'll have to kind of look ahead to tip off, maybe to get a little more clarity on. But we'll touch on a couple of things within the matchup. I want to touch on, of course, what's gone fairly well for Texas Tech, I would say, on the road so far this season in the Big 12 Conference, and kick off the conversation with a question about the Kansas Jayhawks and a different version, I guess, than we're accustomed to seeing. Still very dangerous and still a huge challenge for the Red Raiders to try to get a win here, Chris. But not packing a number, I guess, by their name and not having a season we're really accustomed to in the Big 12 Conference. Beware, however, taking that lightly, because I also think that means great opportunity for Bill Self to really motivate his team to show up on us any given Saturday.
Yeah, and for all the Kansas isn't very good talk and all that, and they're not what they usually are, is the best way to phrase it. They're still pretty good, and most programs around the country would be like, they're projected as like a 5 or a 6 seed. You know how many teams would like love to just be in that kind of talk, and that's a bad year? That's just kind of where Kansas is. And part of this comes with when you're pricked to preseason number 1, and you've fallen short of it because they're not anywhere near what anybody thought they were going to be. They're just not. But it's still, is it going to be an easy game for Texas Tech? No, absolutely not. There will be 16,000 people there. It can be intimidating. It's not, but you can go play well there and win there and compete and all the things too. It's just, it's a different environment. And there will be some of these, I'm trying to think, it may be everybody on your roster that I would be aware of. It may be their first time there. And Grant's first time there as the head coach. You didn't play there last year, so I don't guess you'll have had anybody that has gone up to Lawrence and played. And, I think that Jamias Ramsey went up there, and what did he pop in, like 27 one time? Bryson Williams went up there the first time, and what did he pour in, like 39 or whatever? So, again, you can go up there and play well. I would expect Texas Tech to do just that. The thing about Kansas is this. They loaded up in the portal. I mean, this was a bad year last year. They loaded up in the portal. They added piece after piece after piece. Rylan Griffin from Alabama, A.J. Storr from Wisconsin, Zeke Mayo from South Dakota State. Then they had this nucleus coming back. They had some freshmen coming in, K.J. Adams, Hunter Dickinson, and DeJuan Harris. When you put all this thing together, and it was like, oh my gosh, but it just hasn't really clicked. And I think that they are coming off of wins over Oklahoma State and Colorado, and they are coming off of a trip to Utah to where they just got blitzed. And I think that Bill Self came away from that trip going, we need to get away from each other. We need some time away. And we need to reassess here. And so they've won 2 in a row against 2 teams at the bottom of the standings, but he's tried to tell his kids, this is a fresh start. We're now 2-0 in our new season. And why you say that to him, Bill? Well, because this is something I think that they can get. They grasp it and all that. Their tail end of their season, though, they're going to host the Red Raiders. They're going to Houston on a Monday night. Good luck, boys. And then they come back home and they host Arizona. So they've got Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona, 3 of the top teams in the standings to finish this thing up. So they needed to beat Oklahoma State and Colorado, but if they go 2-3 in this next stretch, you probably look at their season a bit differently because you're not too far ahead of them in the standings at all.
Yeah. I don't want to act like it's been a disappearing act. It's just not the Kansas we're accustomed to. At the top of everything and often at the top of the Big 12 conference. The story. So we'll see what the Red Raiders obviously can do with this one on the road in a little bit of a different context, but nonetheless still very challenging context. And, of course, made all the more so by the questions surrounding the availability of two of your best players, and Chance McMillan and Darion Williams, who we did not see on the floor on Monday night. And we'll get a little bit into this matchup, Chris, but it's I know difficult to do so given the fact that we would anticipate still maybe right up until tip-off before you get some clarity on who's actually going to be out there.
Yeah, we'll just see what it looks like when you because I think you ultimately have to just get to game day and because there's been a lot of illnesses running around the league as well. I mean, there's been various players that you just show up to a game and it's like, man, he's sick, he's not playing tonight. And you're like, whoa. I mean, so we'll just get to game day and see what it looks like. But boy, it would really help if you had at least 7 to go about this thing.
What a luxury.
Yes. I mean, yeah. And again, I'll add the caveat to it too. Like, okay, at what level would either Chance or Darion be at if they do go? I just and thankfully this isn't another Saturday, Monday turnaround. You're not back at home until next Wednesday against Colorado, whereas Kansas has got to get on a plane the next day and go to Houston. I mean, Lions Den meet Necklace. They get to see how the other side lives because usually it's the folks showing up to Fog Allen going, oh God, let me out of here alive. And now how the tables have turned. Their team is what's weird is like Hunter Dickinson may be like first team All-American type or first team All Big 12 type or Big 12 Player of the Year type, which is weird because a lot of the Kansas fans will say to you, he's the single most guy to blame for a little 2-year stint of being underachieving. That he's a statistics guy and he doesn't impact winning. I don't know what's true or what's not, but he's 7'2". He's going to score and rebound it a lot. They're going to pick and roll with him a gazillion times. There'll be a lot of ball screens that he's involved with. And he's a handful around the basket. That's all there is to it. And then a lot of the other blame points to DeJuan Harris, their point guard, who feel like he's been there for 19 years. He's got a season ticket holder. He's got his own parking place and a spot in the locker room. It's like, I'm never leaving. I'm not leaving. But good player. Probably not. He's not a pro. And the reason we're talking about these guys, they're not bona fide pros. These are not NBA guys. Can go play pro basketball somewhere, but these are not guys on the NBA radar. Hence the reason that they're still there. And I think that they are the most trusted because Bill's had them the most, but also they get a lot of blame because it's not going well. And what's the common theme? You guys have, and so right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just the way this thing is kind of going. So I don't really know what to expect. This will be I think Ken Palm's got this thing like 73, 72 Kansas winning or something is what their predictions are based on all their analytical formula and all that stuff. And I would expect a very close game. And it just comes down to who's out of foul trouble, who's actually playing. Can you shoot it well enough? You can't.
Does that foul trouble aspect take us to the front court for Tech? I mean, do we start thinking immediately about Toppin, Federico? But
I think the same is said for Kansas. They are dramatically different when Dickinson is not playing, offensively speaking. And then Badunga, I think is how you say it. I'll have to get a correct pronunciation when I get there in Lawrence. But he's one of their stud freshmen. I think he's got a ton of upside. And he's a really good player. He blocks a ton of shots. And I think they'll play these guys together some, but he's very foul prone. And so kind of what's the story on Federico and Toppin, and then Dickinson and Badinga, whatever. So that is certainly something that I'll be paying attention to, and that will largely dictate how this thing goes, because I don't know what crew you're going to get. Is it called tight? Is it looser? Because typically Kansas is able to, they shoot it really well. They spread the floor. This particular version hasn't gelled as well as they had thought. And so they really have they have other guys that can make them, but two guys that I would say you can't let them shoot it from deep, or else you're in trouble. Right?
First, today's episode brought to you by Fabric. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. And that's why securing their future is so important. And now Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes. And in many cases, no health exam is required. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. And it goes beyond just life insurance. Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help your plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
Rylan Griffin is one. He's the Alabama transfer. He's originally from Dallas. And then David Coit is a backup player. Those are the only guys that are hovering around 38, 40% from three. Zeke Mayo is another one. Coit's more of a backup player, but they typically only have two of these guys on the floor at the same time. Dickinson's not going to hurt you from three. I'm not saying he can't make one. He's made like 9 all year. DeJuan Harris has made 22 all year, but he's like below 30% from three. But typically they have these guys all over the place. So when they play inside out, they just make you pay. But they're easier to guard compared to other years because of some of these pieces. And I think that is interesting compared to a Bill Self-coached team. He thought he was bringing in certain pieces to get what they needed, but it just hasn't necessarily clicked yet. And they're not as great on defense as they typically are, but they are pretty good at home. Just the one miracle finish versus Houston, and then they got sniped by 1 point on New Year's Eve to West Virginia. That won that game without Amani Stansbury. If you followed West Virginia, there was no Stansbury, and I don't think there was any of the coach's kid either that's been hurt. Tucker DeVries. So they basically went in there and just won with Javon Small because Hansberry was their second best player the other day in Lubbock, Texas, and I think that they won that game without either one of those guys. So. But again, you're not slipping under the radar here. They know you're ranked in the top 10, and that they can get their thing back on track with the win. So you'll get a really good shot here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you cannot take for granted any opportunity to, have a chance to win in Lawrence, Kansas. Hopefully that's the case in the final 5 minutes. We're talking 2 all-time victories. Is it 1? I thought we got another at some point, but it's like,
it's just one.
Is it 1?
It was the Elite 8 year.
Word to Bob Uecker, 1 damn victory. That's it.
Yeah, because you got the Final Four year, you got smoked up there. Now you lost by like you lost by like 15 or 16. Now when they came here, I think you said hello back to them.
Yeah,
like it was pretty lopsided.
Let's get up there and say hello. You didn't make the trip last year, so you're back to the fog and seeing if you can find some success where it's been almost non-existent. Chris, safe travels, man. Appreciate a little extra time to get ready for this big one for Texas Tech, and we'll process the result on the other side. We'll see you then.
Pay heed to all who enter, or whatever silly shenanigans that sign says when I walk in the door. Yeah, right. No, I'm
no heed paid.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's if you ever have a chance to go up there, it's neat. But yeah, I mean, I've said enough nice things about that place. So yeah. The heck with it. Guns up, go Red Raiders. And either way, we're back at home next week. So we'll kind of see how this one goes. So
that's right. Appreciate a little extra time. Thanks for being out there and getting ready for Red Raiders and Jayhawks. And we hope to see you on the other side. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.